Hello, welcome to the Connected Lawyer podcast. My name is Bryan.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everybody. And before we get started, I just want to thank our sponsor, TechIt. And as we've said, TechIt is a company that Bryan and I have used their apps anyway for a lot of years. And I'm just going to highlight one app. I actually just downloaded this thing today, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's called Time for a Break. And this one's actually totally free. And you just go to techit.com and you can download it. And I'm going to launch it from my toolbar. And all it does is display this little window that starts a 25-minute counter. And that's literally all it does. And
Hey, can you tell us the purpose of that, Aaron?
well, for me, I kind of have to remind myself to stand up during the day. And as you know, I work in a recliner, and which is another tip that I recommend to people. It's just very comfortable. It's very relaxing. But I've kind of found that, if you sit in a recliner for 8 or 10 hours in a row, that you can hardly get back up. And so what they say is, about every half an hour, you should just stand up for a couple of minutes, maybe take a little walk around. The other thing that this is nice though, if it's not, there to remind you to stand up, it also syncs up perfectly with the Pomodoro timing method, which kind of says you can really only focus for 25 minutes at a time. And so this effectively operates as a Pomodoro timer.
Excellent, excellent. And you said it's absolutely free.
It was free. They didn't ask me to pay for anything. I just
Awesome.
downloaded it, it
So,
ran, and it didn't say it was on a trial or anything like that. So yeah, it's a
yeah,
nice little. It's called Time for a Break. Techit.com. It's a great little, just a great little free, simple tool.
and that's techhit.com. There are two H's in there to find Techit, and we'll make sure we put a link in the show notes about that as well.
For
But
sure.
uh,
So anyway, what are we talking about today, Bryan?
I wanted to talk about well, the program I use in particular is called ActiveWords, but there's a whole suite of different programs that do the same types of stuff that are commonly referred to as text expansion. In fact, probably the first program I heard of that did this was called Text Expander, which again, great name, like own the market. And I would have bought it the first time I saw it, but at that time it was available only for the Mac. So I had to go find a different solution for myself, and I ended up with ActiveWords. And again, we'll have a link in the show notes to these products that we're talking about. And again, ActiveWords, they don't pay me anything. In fact, I pay them money every year to use it. $30 or $40, whatever it is. But what it does at its most basic, and I will start there at its most basic because there's the ability to do a lot more types of stuff with it. But its most basic is it just allows you to do text substitution, sort of in the same way that autocorrect does in Microsoft Word, where if, for example, there's if you've ever looked at autocorrect, there's a whole bunch of words in there that are just basically misspellings of common words. And so when you type it wrong, Microsoft automatically fixes it, and you never know. Of course, you never learn then that you've been misspelling the word excellent your entire life.
Yeah,
But
that's the thing that every time I put a C in parentheses, like paragraph one C in parentheses, it wants to change it to the copyright symbol.
yes, exactly. That's the exact same thing. And I will point out, this is one of my favorite word tips. You can go into Microsoft Word and delete that,
Yeah.
and then it never happens again. I also recommend taking out the euro symbol because we're not in Europe. So the likelihood you will ever need the euro symbol, unless you are practicing European law regularly, is pretty low. So,
Yeah, but
uh,
but if Microsoft already does this, then why do you have to pay for a program to do it?
well, there are a couple of reasons. One, um, it does more than just that. And two, sort of the thing that's really important to me is it works everywhere you don't have to be just in Microsoft Word. Like I use this all the time in emails or filling out information on the web or in my web browser, whatever it is I'm doing. Any program that I have on my computer except for ActiveWords. Can't use an ActiveWord inside of ActiveWords for
Sure.
whatever reason. But
Does it work in
any other
Notepad?
program,
Just
it
basic
works in
Notepad?
Notepad.
Okay.
Yeah, it works in anything. And so in its most simple, it does exactly what we just talked about, the text substitution. So for example, I have, and this is probably the thing I use it for the most, even though it sounds kind of stupid, is my email address. You really, if you think about it, you have to type your email address a lot for things, especially if you're doing something on the internet or whatever. And I enter my email address by literally typing the keys E and M and hitting the space bar twice, and then it automatically populates my email address.
Do you
And
always
I
have to
have
hit the space bar twice? Is that sort of like the enter key for this?
so you can set up different types of, they're called triggers, that will create or activate the word that you're using. I chose the double space just because it's really easy to do. I don't have to take my hand off my keyboard. I can just keep typing and moving right along. So that's fine. But there are other triggers you can use, and they also have a sort of a pop-up window that you can type stuff in and trigger the word there as well. But
so I have 5 email addresses though. So I could just set this up. I mean, you're telling it EM space, put your email address in there, but you could say EM1 space, EM2 space, whatever.
Right. So, for example, I have the same thing. I have a whole rash of email addresses, and my main email, my work email, is EM. My personal Gmail account is EMG because it's email and then Google and whatever. And then I just do the same thing, follow the same pattern with other emails that I have. I start with EM and then just add to the end whatever designator makes sense to me.
Yeah. And so you would do this like if you're filling out a form and it asks you what your email address is, and so that you'd put it in there. Or if you're typing a letter, send me an email at whatever, you do that.
Right. Except when I'm typing a letter, I have an active word. I think it's called any. So I just type ANY, literally the word any, hit the spacebar twice, and it inserts a paragraph that says, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at, has my email address, or phone me at, and it has my telephone number.
Okay.
And so that entire paragraph just appears there with me typing literally, I guess, 3 characters and 2 spaces.
Yeah.
And I never have to think about it. In the same way, I have an attorney's fees provision. If I'm going to put it in some sort of an agreement or whatever, I type in AF for attorney's fees and it pops out. Or an example I just used this weekend, I do real estate law, and for part of my practice, and I had clients who I needed to send documents to sign, and I was going to email them to them. They're going to sign and get them notarized and send them back to me. And this is not uncommon. I have clients who are out of town or out of state or just don't want to come into the office or whatever. And fine, I'm happy to work with them anyway on the sales. But I've set up an email that is literally, these are all the documents that we talk about, that you need to sign. This is what you need to do. And I just use ActiveWords. I type in, it's RE sign, which I realize is the word resign, but in my head, it's real estate sign. I realized it after the first time I typed it. And and I type in.
That's bad if you have like a form resignation letter.
Right. Yeah. So I type in resign, and boom, my email is populated with all of the documents that they need to sign for a real estate closing, and everything that I have to say about them. And I don't have to go through and draft that every time, or go find a version of that where I sent it where the last time I had a client who needed to do it. So I got to figure out who that client was or whatever. It's right there.
Yeah, I suppose
Um,
you could do that with emails. Like a lot of times I'll send out, here's a new draft of the document we're working on, whatever, please review this and give me a call with any questions or concerns. Like I have these sort of memorized emails that I repeatedly type over and over, and I could probably just very easily set that up here.
You absolutely could. Another sort of use case that I use again, and I'm just sticking with this is the basic, like this is the lowest level of what this program does, is um, when I'm working on something, and one of the parties has a really long or difficult or complicated name or something. And for whatever
Mhm.
reason, I don't want to abbreviate it, because sometimes I don't. Like I want that name there. I just create an active word for it. And now, instead of using some sort of weird initialism that nobody knows what it means, I can put the entire long, lengthy name of the party in there with just a couple of keystrokes. I never have to think about it again. I just boom, type it in. Or the same thing if you've got a client you represent a lot and you're often referring to them, the super company LLC or whatever it is, you can just put a short, an active word in for them, and boom, it appears. I've certainly done that for clients where I represent on a regular basis, that I'm engaging in communications with other people about.
Well, I'm not sure that I could really remember a whole bunch of quick keystrokes, and be constantly like I think I could remember, okay, EM space space, that puts my email address. But if I've got like 40 of these things in there, I'm gonna lose track.
So absolutely, you're not going to remember all of them. What I would say is you're gonna have a few that are really important to you that you use regularly, that you won't have any trouble remembering. Uh, Otherwise, if you're creating sort of a one-off, for like I was talking about, where you're drafting, in my example, a brief, and you want to refer to this long company name, or perhaps even it's just a short name, but it has a special character in it, like an N with a tilde, or something like that, that you want to make sure you preserve. You don't want to type that every time you mention the company, so you can create a one-off active word. And the reality is you don't have to remember it after that. Use it that one time, you
Yeah.
finish your document, and you never have to remember that, or use it again. But ActiveWords allows you to look through all the words that you've created, to search through them to find things. So if you've created that out there, then you can go search for it and find it. And
Okay,
in
so
the
if I'm
same way,
typing a document, then I could like sort of what do you do? Like right click, or how do you invoke the list of possible things that it can insert?
so there the easiest way, or the way that I do it the most often, is I just open active words from my toolbar. So let me if you want to give me screen sharing permission, I will actually show you what this looks like. Okay, so to access ActiveWords, again, as with so many things that we do, there are always multiple ways. Honestly, it's just easiest for me. I open up the little thing there and right click on the picture of ActiveWords and choose open. You can see here from the context menu that I can create a new active word from right here. And these are all the different types of things that um, ActiveWord can do. Launch a program, launch a Windows Store app, open a document, open a folder, open a URL. It has a scripting capability if you want to write sort of a multi-step process to open a number of programs or things like that. I've never really gotten into it because it's just not a part of my work process that I need to do that. And then down here's the substitute text. That's literally, that is the one feature that we've talked about thus far. And you can see all the others that are available there. But if I just click open, I now have, these are all the stuff in my ActiveWords. And some of them are ActiveWords that I've created. Some of them come preceded with the program. So for example, all of these right here are things to do in ActiveWords to create a new ActiveWord, to launch an app, or to substitute content or text or whatever else. But I can go down through here, and these are all of my options and ActiveWords that are in here. So for example, this one is titled Radon. I use this regularly in my real estate practice. If the radon test comes back high, I type radon, and then it spits out a paragraph that says the radon results came back at 4.0 or higher. Please remediate to less than that and have retest it. So almost everything that I use it for is text substitution, although there's plenty more powerful things to access folders, open websites, things like that. Generally, I just open websites from Google, but there is one sort of thing that I've been doing lately that with respect to websites, and that's opening Zoom meetings, something that we've had lately, and a lot of them, they're the same meetings. I have this with judges in certain counties, or the meeting with you where we record these. We use the particular meeting address, and I have an ActiveWord that's has the name AB because your name is Aaron Brooks. And I can put that in there. I just type AB and it automatically launches our Zoom
Really?
meeting.
So
Yes.
so like there you have CNBC. You're saying you could just type CNBC and it launches that website?
Yes. So I was
But
looking
can
for
you just do
this.
that on the fly, or do you have to open the browser and then do it?
No, as long as you know what it is. So let me open a browser here. Now that we know there's a CNBC. So here we go. CNBC. I type it and it's automatically taking me to CNBC.
Well, okay. But I mean, can you, without opening the browser, like can this thing launch programs on its own?
Oh, yes. You just have to type it somewhere. So you saw there, I typed CNBC in Notepad, and boom, it pulled up the browser and went to CNBC. The same thing, I can do the same thing. I still got Notepad open. So CNN, I think, was one of the ones that's listed there, and I'll automatically launch it.
If your browser is closed, will it still do it?
Sure. Let me close the browser there.
So if you like close everything, but you have to type it in somewhere.
You do have to type it somewhere. Now, ActiveWords has a, let's see what they call it.
I mean, so if you're just sitting there with no programs open and on your keyboard you type CNN space, will it launch the browser?
I have never tried that. So
let's try it.
Okay. So let me close that, and I'm not in anything. Yes, although
It
you
did
didn't
it?
see it, it did. But hold on, let me. It popped up on my browser that was open on another screen. So
So
now
it's a keylogger, basically.
I've shut that off. So now I just click the desktop, typed CNN, and it is loading it now.
Okay, now that I could see using if I'm saying, like I want to go to, like we use Harvest for timesheets, and I might just sit down and type, I guess I could just type H and hit space, and it would launch my browser and take me directly to Harvest to my timesheet.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
And so they also have and they call it an action pad that you can open up and type stuff into if you want that always available all the time. I don't use it because one, not really my use case for the program, but two, I don't like to give stuff my screen space unless I find it really, really useful. So here we have, you can see I turned on the action pad. So that's this right here.
Okay.
So that gives you immediate, you can just double click on that and get immediate access
Oh yeah.
to whatever it is here. Um, so that's absolutely, and you can launch programs here from here as well. Again, all the important programs I use are in my toolbar, so it's not something that aspect is not something that I use it for a lot, but you can absolutely do that uh, if you want.
Okay. Interesting. That's interesting.
So
So
I take it that
like
you've
how
never
much can
used.
it hold? So if I want to put in war and peace, insert war and peace here, will it hold that much text?
So I will say this. I will presume there's some sort of limit to it. I have no idea what it is. I have never encountered that limit at all.
But I
And
could open
anything I've
Word and
done,
say non-disclosure agreement and it would drop an NDA right into it.
yes, if you've got one in there. Now, typically for longer stuff like that, I'll actually use a real document automation program or service. But this could certainly act as a foundation for one if you're using just building blocks to put stuff together. Absolutely. So, like I said, I use it regularly to drop in texts of of paragraphs of text relating to stuff. So, like the email that I was talking about earlier, that's, I don't know, probably a couple thousand words long when you think about it. Everything that I go through. You can also use it so uh, you can insert not just literal text, but also text codes from Word. So, for example, I've created one for a certificate of service that says that I've served, whatever the preceding document on whoever's supposed to get it at the address indicated above on, and then the after the on is not a actual date, but the date code from Word that automatically updates whenever it is that it's opened or created or used or whatever. So in that instance, it puts it in there. When I type in that text substitution, the COS, certificate of service, then it drops um, that date code in there, so it's automatically dated for the day that I did it. So it's more than just literal basic text, you can put other stuff in there as well. In the same way, you can have it include formatting, so that when it drops the text in, it's formatted however it is that you want it to be formatted, with whether with bullets or numbering or just fancy fonts, whatever it is that is appealing to you on that particular day or for that particular purpose.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not like a clause library so much. So if you had a clause library that said insert an attorney's fee clause here, then you could insert it, but it would sort of know that that one of the parties is called Acme, right? And so it sort of substitutes that out.
Right. So with document automation, like for example, Pythagoras,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
what I was thinking of.
which is document automation, but it's very much a clause or paragraph based document automation. So, yes, so that one automatically substitutes things like Acme for the party name or whatever it is. That's not what this is designed to do. You can certainly do some of that in terms of dropping in, I will call them generic paragraphs of text. My attorney's fees clause doesn't mention any party by name. It just says that, the prevailing party, is able to recover attorney's fees. So I don't have to worry about customizing that aspect of it, which, is really, that's a different case from my situation. Like if I'm doing document automation, I have software for that.
What do you use for
But
document automation?
I use the form tool, or
Okay.
their upgraded version, Doc but that's what I use. It works well for me. Works the way my brain works. I know there are people who love Pythagoras, so
And sort of the
uh,
difference then, like one is in the class of software document automation, another sort of in a class of software which is more of a clause library. And I guess the difference would be with document automation, you have a document that is a repeatable document, like a non-disclosure agreement or a real estate contract, where the terms are pretty set, right? It's every time you use it, you use the same kinds of terms. And what you're really wanting is a tool that can walk you through an interview process to make it custom for the use case, but not necessarily to redraft the document, right?
right. And I will tell you, it seems like this is kind of okay, well, that sounds useful, that the text substitution, but how much do you really use it? And I will tell you that this is the one program that, when I rebuild my computer, if I don't have this installed, it drives me crazy.
And what's the first
Uh,
thing that you're trying to do that you realize, oh, that program's not installed? What usually is it?
I had somebody or something asked for my email address.
Okay, so that's
And
the big thing.
and I know that sounds like a first world problem. Oh no, I have to type out the entire email address. But there is a difference between just hitting a couple of keys and having to type out an entire email address, especially if it's something that you have to do multiple times or whatever. So that's when it hits me. Oh no, I've forgotten to install ActiveWords, and then I just stop whatever I'm doing and go install it. And one of the nice things about at least ActiveWords, I presume other similar software does the same sort of thing, is I can install the library on a network drive so that everybody in my office, if I buy them all licenses for it, I'm the only one here right now, but theoretically, if I had more people in the office, I could buy them license for ActiveWords, and then we could all access the same clause, the same library.
You could
So
collaborate to build the content.
correct.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, and not only that, even if you're the only one using it, I guess then it's not dependent upon the computer that it's installed upon, right? Because you rebuild your computer, you buy a new computer, You just reconnect that network drive, and all your stuff is sort of automatically backed up and available.
Yes, so that was the I learned the first time when I had to reinstall everything and I did not have a backup of my
Yeah.
library.
OneDrive is
You
your friend.
yeah, so that just sort of I learned then uh, uh, make sure that you've got that securely backed up somewhere so that when you do have to reinstall it, it is there and available to you, because you don't want to have to rebuild the closet, your library, so to speak. But it is absolutely um, indispensable to me. I use it all day, all the time, and it really. I sometimes, if I'm using somebody else's computer to access something or whatever, I get frustrated that I have to type out all of these words that I shouldn't have to, because I should just be able to create them.
Yeah, and I'm starting to think about different ways that I could use this. I definitely want to try it out. And to me, the part about having a clause library is nice. There's definitely sort of a lot of repeatable phrases that I find myself typing all the time, and so it would reduce some mental overhead to be able to automate that. But the idea of using it as an app launcher, I think would be amazing. And just the idea of saying, instead of I'm going to open Chrome, I'm going to go to Harvest, I'm going to go to my timesheet, I can just do time space space, and it does all that for me. That seems kind of amazing. Just an app launcher.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, you can also use it to open files. Like if you need to go back to a particular document on a regular basis, or open folders. Like, I need to go back to this folder on a regular basis. You can
Oh,
set it to
really? Okay. So if
open
I
to.
have, because we do that, so we use SharePoint and Teams, really as our document repository, and it's connected to Clio, which is the sort of the governor for opening new clients and matters, right? So my documents are all inside of a Teams/SharePoint folder, and then I sync those locally to my encrypted hard drive. So if I wanted to open up, I'm working on the Acme client, and I want to open up the Acme folder, you're saying I can just type Acme space space, and it will invoke Windows Explorer and take me right to the folder.
Yes.
Okay, take my money. This is you've sold me on this. I've got to get this tech in the door. How much does it cost
Yeah.
anyway? Before
Uh,
I sign.
yeah. Yes. $30 or $40
Oh,
a
so
year.
it's basically free for
It's yeah, from that perspective.
yeah.
And I certainly don't want to encourage them to raise their prices, but
Yeah, that's right. I
uh,
should amend my comment. That's actually, I got to think about that price. But
yeah.
honestly,
So
if it saves you
yes,
a few
it's
minutes a
30.
day over the course of a year, it doesn't take very long to make that up.
Right. It is $30 a year for one person. Uh, if you want sort of an enterprise, you can get up to 5 users for $140.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's and just looking here, so this installation was installed on my computer on November 2020, and it has saved me from typing 98,446 characters. It just keeps
Characters.
track of that. Yes.
Since the
So
since the time that it started counting.
yes, November 2nd, 2020.
Would that
And
have
as a
been the last install, or does that metric get stored in OneDrive, so it's from the time that you began using the program?
oh no, I've been using the program for more than a decade. This
Okay, so
is
it counts from the
this
last
is from
install.
an install, yeah. So, but apparently that is 2% of my total text entry over that time. So,
Interesting. While we're on this point, I want to sort of unpack that for a second, because and this point relates to the sort of the currency or the economy of buying legal software as a whole. And all these vendors want to sell you on trying to match the amount of time it takes you to do something versus your hourly rate, and therefore you can multiply those two together and come up with how much you should pay for the software, which I think is a kind of a silly way. It doesn't work. It never pans out if they say, well, look, if you spend 3 hours drafting this contract and now it's only going to take you 1 hour, I've saved you 2 hours at your hourly rate of whatever, and so therefore this is worth it. That is not a good way to value legal tech. However, the other way to look at it is in the context of this sort of an array of workforce production studies, and there is a whole body of scholarly research on what creates productivity in a workforce, and we talk about this like when we talk about Kanban and all of these sort of productivity
Right.
apps, agile methodology. We talk about the idea that over the course of your day, there is an exhaustion that sets in, and the exhaustion relates to sort of the number of decisions that you have to make, right? And so if you are constantly writing, attach, please find a contract, that has the revisions we've talked about, please review and give me a call with any questions or concerns. If you type that 40 times, it's sort of exhausting, right? You're draining mental overhead to
Right.
do these repetitive tasks. Even though they might not take very long, it isn't the amount of time that they're wasting. It is the decision-making ability or whatever it is that allows us to do our work gets depleted, right? So this
No,
seems to address that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I never really thought of it so much that way, but yes. So I remember in the past, for example, um, with the radon thing that I mentioned earlier, uh, I would either have to sit down and draft that paragraph from scratch. Again, this is not complicated. The EPA says it's 4, but is that centiliters per whatever? And I'd always have to go look up the measurement and figure out what it was supposed to be. And so I'd either have to like sit down and physically draft that from scratch, or find the last time I had a bad radon, which consists the start of that process is sitting at my desk, staring at my computer screen, going, "What was the name of that client who had a bad
Right.
radon reading?"
Right.
And then if I happen to get the right one, I go to their folder, I open it, and I find the letter I sent there. But oftentimes it's 2 or 3 people before I would get the right one. And one day it struck me, I'm an idiot. I have a program that will do this for me. I copied one and saved it into ActiveWords. And now when that comes up, I literally don't even have to think about it. I don't have to worry about what the measurement is in terms of their values and how they measure it or whatever. It's simple. I type, I'm in the modification or the home inspection letter, I type radon space, and I go on to the next thing. I don't have to check the paragraph. I wrote it, I proofed it before I put it in there, so I know what it says. So I don't even have to think about it. Literally, radon space, done. I go on. The same thing with we run into this all the time with air conditioners because we're in Chicago, so more than half the year you can't test the air conditioner. So we always put in there, because of the temperature, the home inspector is unable to test the air conditioner. Please warrant that the air conditioner operated properly in the most recent cooling season, or something to that effect. Again, I was either drafting that from scratch um, or trying to find the last time I did that. Now I type AC space, and that paragraph's in there. I don't have to think about it again. I just go on.
Yeah,
And you're
and
right.
it hasn't
That
consumed
saves
any.
that draining.
Right. It hasn't consumed any mental overhead or creative capacity. And it's sort of along the same lines of when, like when somebody asks you to do free legal work, and it seems like a simple thing to them, they're just asking you a question that you should know
Right.
the answer based on your experience and training. But what they're not often fully appreciating is that by listening to the question, parsing it, and giving them a satisfying answer, they're consuming your professional capacity. You can't now do that. That's one less time that you're able to do that over the course of the day. So they're literally consuming your stock off your inventory shelf. I can't
Right.
do this. There's a point in the day when I just can't do it anymore, and I have to rest. And every little thing that you do like this, like remembering what the client is, finding the folder, opening it up, finding the document, looking through it, pulling the clause you need out instead of just typing, ACC double space.
Right.
It could be a changer, or a game changer.
Absolutely. And, just I don't really use the open the document folder kind of thing. But now I'm starting to think maybe I need to do that more often, because honestly, I'll get a thought in my head, I need to go to this folder. And then by the time I've opened Windows Explorer and I'm looking in, the place where I store my documents, I'm like, okay, where was I going again?
Yeah.
In that time period, 1,000 other things have gone through my mind, and now I've got to sit and figure out, okay, I was working on this, so I need to go to that folder or whatever it is. Where if when the thought came to me, I just put in, a shortcut for the folder name, and boom, ActiveWords already has it open for me before I think about it. It's a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. I think that's a great tip.
That's I really like your bringing it back to, you've only got so much mental energy, and that is so true. I gave a presentation a couple of years ago on productivity, and one of the stats that really stuck with me was um, the people who had done the study, and they found that there was no appreciable difference that people could tell between people who worked 60 hours a week and 80 hours a week.
Right,
Like
diminishing returns.
once you hit a certain point, like you're it's just not working anymore.
Yeah,
And you're right. This relieves that fatigue, so I can use that amount of time I have in a better, more productive fashion, or at least for something that is important to me, and not um, just doing straightforward administrative stuff.
makes sense. Well, I think we're just about out of time. Brian, you want to take us out of this episode?
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us again. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions for topics we should cover, you can email us at info@theconnectedlawyer.com. And I'm Bryan. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Aaron. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.